The warning was written directly onto the concrete wall. Not with paint. With dried blood. Don't drink the water near Sector B12. Elias stopped walking. The underground tunnel beneath the Helix Research Complex smelled like bleach, rust, and something rotten trapped inside the ventilation system. Red emergency lights pulsed overhead, turning the corridor into a heartbeat of shadows. Probably another containment drill, one of the security officers muttered. Nobody answered him. Because everyone had already noticed the second message scratched beneath the first. They're still alive down there. Then the elevator behind them closed by itself. And started descending. Mutation Sector B12 sat nearly 2 miles beneath the desert. Officially, the level didn't exist. No maps. No employee records. No government acknowledgement. The deeper Elias traveled, the colder the air became. The steel hallways looked surgically clean, yet water dripped constantly from overhead pipes. Every few seconds, fluorescent lights flickered hard enough to plunge the corridor into darkness. The staff avoided eye contact. Nobody smiled. Nobody spoke above a whisper. A scientist pushing a sealed container froze when he saw Elias' visitor badge. "You shouldn't be here," the man whispered. Before Elias could respond, alarms briefly chirped overhead. Not emergency alarms. Biometric warnings. Something nearby had just been detected moving where it shouldn't. Then all the monitors along the hallway suddenly went black. The cafeteria inside B12 was abandoned. Half-eaten meals still sat on tables. Coffee cups remained warm. But the workers were gone. Elias noticed water pooled beneath several chairs. Thick black water. The smell coming from it made his eyes burn. Then he heard scratching. Soft at first. Inside the walls. A technician rushed past him, trembling violently. Blood leaked from the man's nose. "Don't let them near the water tanks," the technician whispered. "What happened here?" The man looked terrified. "They changed after exposure." Before Elias could ask more, the technician suddenly collapsed. His body convulsed across the floor. Veins beneath his skin twisted unnaturally, moving like worms. Then the hallway speakers crackled alive. Containment breach detected in Mutation Sector B12. And somewhere far below them, something screamed. Dr. Myra Voss finally told Elias the truth. At least part of it. B12 had been created to study adaptive cellular evolution. The government wanted soldiers capable of surviving radiation, disease, and extreme environments. So they engineered a mutagen. Not injected. Waterborne. It was supposed to rewrite damaged DNA, Myra explained. But the cells kept evolving. Elias stared through reinforced glass into the testing chamber below. Shapes moved in the darkness. Human-shaped. Mostly. "They tested it on volunteers?" he asked quietly. Myra didn't answer immediately. Then she whispered. "They stopped being volunteers after the first week." Inside the chamber, dozens of pale figures slowly turned toward the observation window at the exact same time. As if they heard her heartbeat. The official reports blamed a chemical spill. That was the public story. But Elias discovered entire sections of footage had been erased from the servers. Death records disappeared overnight. Employee families were paid to remain silent. One security file showed workers trying to escape through the filtration tunnels. The next frame showed the footage corrupted by static. Then the workers reappeared. Standing completely still. Facing the camera. Their eyes looked wrong. Too reflective. Too empty. Myra pulled Elias away from the monitor. They monitor electrical signals now, she whispered. Lights. Cameras. Heart rates. You mean the infected? Her face went pale. We stopped calling them infected days ago. Suddenly, every light in the control room shut off simultaneously. Then the emergency backup activated. Dark red. And the intercom announced. Water purification failure detected. The explosion shook the entire facility. Pipes burst overhead, flooding corridors with contaminated water. Steam hissed through the ventilation shafts while steel doors slammed shut across Sector B12. Lockdown initiated. People started screaming immediately. Scientists ran through the hallways carrying oxygen masks and hard drives. Some pounded desperately against sealed blast doors. Others simply vanished into the darkness. Elias saw one researcher slipping in black water near the reactor chamber. Something beneath the surface grabbed him. Hard. The man disappeared underwater before anyone could react. Seconds later, the emergency lights revealed movement inside the flooded corridor. Not one shape. Several. Walking beneath the water. Toward them. Communication failed within minutes. Radios produced only static. Cell signals died completely. The deeper sectors flooded fast, carrying contaminated water through every level of the facility. Survivors wrapped shirts around their mouths, terrified even breathing might infect them. Then came the transformations. A guard began clawing at his own skin until blood covered the walls. Another worker stood motionless for nearly 10 minutes before suddenly attacking the nearest person with animal-like violence. Myra checked one victim's pupils. "They're synchronizing," she whispered. "What does that mean?" Before she could answer, every infected person in the hallway suddenly stopped moving. At the exact same moment. Then they slowly turned their heads toward Elias. As though something inside them recognized him. And the lights went out again. The mutation wasn't killing people. It was connecting them. The water carried microscopic organisms capable of rewriting neural pathways, linking human minds together like a biological network. A hive consciousness. Everyone exposed eventually lost individual identity. That's why the infected moved together. Why they reacted simultaneously. Why they always seemed to know where survivors were hiding. Myra revealed the final classified report while they hid inside a maintenance tunnel. The organism came from beneath the desert, she whispered. They found it in underground water reserves decades ago. Elias felt dizzy. His vision blurred. Then he noticed black veins slowly spreading beneath the skin of his wrist. "No," he whispered. Myra looked at him silently. "You drank the water earlier." Far down the tunnel, dozens of footsteps echoed through the darkness. Perfectly synchronized. Director Halden sealed the upper exits himself. Not to stop the outbreak. To preserve it. "This is the greatest biological advancement in human history," he announced over the intercom. "A unified consciousness. No war. No fear. No individuality." People screamed at him through locked security doors. He ignored them. Halden ordered armed personnel to protect the central water reservoirs instead of evacuating survivors. Then Elias discovered the worst truth. The outbreak had not been accidental. Sector B12's water contamination was intentional. A field test. On the entire facility. Myra stared at the director's recorded confession in horror. He planned all of this. Suddenly, gunfire erupted somewhere above them. Then silence. Then the intercom crackled one final time. They're inside the control room. Reactor failure countdown, 18 minutes. Elias and Myra raced through collapsing corridors toward the freight elevator leading to the surface. Steam burst from ruptured pipes while warning sirens screamed endlessly overhead. The infected followed close behind. Not running. Walking calmly. Like they already knew escape was impossible. Water flooded around Elias' boots as he forced open a maintenance hatch. The smell beneath the tunnels was unbearable now, wet decay mixed with burning metal. Myra handed him a flare. If the reactor blows, this whole sector collapses. And if it doesn't? She looked back toward the darkness. Then they reached the surface. A distorted scream echoed through the tunnel. Not human anymore. Something slammed violently against the hatch behind them. Then another impact followed. Harder. The metal began bending inward. At 3:14 a.m., emergency footage from Sector B12 leaked online. Millions watched blurry recordings of mutated workers moving through flooded hallways under red lights. Government agencies immediately labeled the videos fake. But more files appeared. Autopsy reports. Internal emails. Experiment logs. The world learned about the underground laboratory beneath the desert and the biological organism hidden inside its water supply. News stations exploded with panic. Conspiracy forums tracked unusual water contamination reports across nearby towns. Then satellite images revealed military quarantines expanding around the region. Officials denied everything. But civilians had already started abandoning entire cities near the desert. Because one final leaked recording terrified everyone most. A scientist repeating the same sentence over and over. It spreads through water. 3 weeks later, Sector B12 officially no longer existed. The government declared the facility destroyed in a reactor accident. No survivors. No contamination. Case closed. But deep beneath the collapsed ruins, emergency power still flickered through submerged corridors. Something remained alive down there. In the darkness of the flooded laboratory, hundreds of pale figures stood motionless beneath the water. Waiting. Connected. Listening. Then one of the inactive monitoring screens suddenly activated by itself. A single message appeared across the black display. Reservoir access detected. Somewhere far beyond the desert, in another city entirely, water began flowing through underground pipes. And people started hearing strange whispers inside the walls.